Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of This Week in Niche Pursuits News. And it's Jared and I back in the seat hosting together again. So it's going to be a lot of fun. We've got a lot of great news to cover. The big headline story here is that Meta is facing an antitrust lawsuit. It may be forced to sell off Instagram. And so we're going to talk about that, what the latest is. And we actually have another antitrust lawsuit. So we're going to be throwing the book through the whole show here. But after the news, we've got a few other news stories. So stick around for that. We've got our weird niche sites that we're going to do at the very end. Always love doing that. I got a good one. And then a couple of side hustles before that we're going to talk about. I will simply tease that I haven't been this excited about a side hustle in a long time. And it may not be for the reasons that people think.
Well, when it comes to your side hustle, I haven't been this unconvinced about one of your side hustles in a long time either. So,
well, that kind of ties in well to the reason I'm doing it in a way. So, yes,
very meta. This is a very meta side hustle of you. Let's put it that way.
There you go. Yeah. So we'll see if I can convince Jared and listeners that I should continue with this side hustle.
Uphill task.
But before we do that, of course, we got to get into the news. And this week, there actually were some big antitrust lawsuits that came out. The first one is the title here on BBC.com, Landmark Antitrust Trial Could Force Zuckerberg to Sell Instagram. And so let's make sure people can see that. But yeah, basically that is pretty much what's going on here, is that there has been a lawsuit brought forth in court that basically is saying that Mark Zuckerberg and Meta acquired Instagram and WhatsApp unlawfully. They used unfair practices, that they really acquired those two companies because they were afraid of the competition, and rather than try and compete, they just acquired the companies, right? And of course, Meta has countered the lawsuit from the SEC, and it's going to go through a whole long process. So we're not going to know anything for sure, probably for a very long time. But that's what's at stake here, is that the lawsuit that's filed is saying, hey, Instagram, WhatsApp, you guys used monopolistic behavior to just acquire these competitors instead of competing. And so we're going to try and force you to sell off those assets. That's it in a nutshell.
Yeah, I mean, obviously this is such early days. I feel like for so long we could just dismiss this stuff, like, oh, it's just, stuff that these things do, and then they get dismissed. And then we have this Google example of the DOJ, and obviously that is much more than what we originally maybe anticipated. This one, I did read in the article, from what it sounds like, feels a little bit more like the ones we're used to, where the FTC is really going to have an uphill battle. And I don't know much about why. We're not lawyers. We don't really understand that, but they did comment that this is going to be a much bigger challenge than the DOJ case against Google.
Yeah. And on its surface, I mean, I can kind of understand why it would be such an uphill battle when you can compare the two. It kind of goes against the whole acquisition model in a way. I mean, companies have been doing this for forever, right? You see a rising star, a rising competitor, acquire them, right? And that's been happening forever. And so how do you say what's a legal acquisition and what isn't, right? Of course, they'll make the argument that they cornered the market on social media or something like that. And that is a bit of an uphill battle, right? When they acquired these companies, they were upstarts. I mean, Instagram was, I think, like less than 2 years old when it was acquired. I don't remember exactly, but
people were saying they way overpaid for them. They obviously didn't, in hindsight.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, maybe they paid more than what people thought Instagram was worth at the time. But Mark Zuckerberg had a vision, and clearly that's played out well. And then, the WhatsApp acquisition, $19 billion, huge. So I agree. I think that they've got an uphill battle. On the other hand, the Google antitrust lawsuit, when you look at the total market share of search and how Google has potentially used shady practices to making people, forcing people to use Chrome, using Google essentially by default on Apple devices, Android devices, right? There's other certain practices that goes beyond just acquiring other companies, right?
And I mean, you already brought it up, so I'm glad you mentioned it. Like, they acquired these companies. Well, they acquired Instagram at a time when Instagram was not a giant in the social media world. They were certainly very popular, don't get me wrong. But to your point, they weren't this massive entity. And remember, companies acquire other competitors and do far more, I don't know, nefarious things, like shut them down. They're like, that's a competitor. Their technology is a risk for us. So we're going to acquire them and just shut them down. We're not going to use their technology. We're just going to shut them down. So us very lay people in this space, it does feel like, I don't know why there's a case here, but to your point, like, I don't know where what they did crossed lines that we don't necessarily understand about antitrust specifically.
Right. And the fact that this is going back to 2012 when they acquired Instagram, it's like, why now, 12 years later, when it was approved originally, right? So I think that's going to be a huge challenge, is that the FTC did look at this back in 2012 and they're like, yeah, good to go. Now they're trying to reverse course for some reason. So
here's a question I have. I don't know if you know the answer. Maybe a listener can put it in the comments or something. Like, this is brought forward. This trial is brought by the FTC against Meta. And then we had the Google trial, which is brought by the DOJ, Department of Justice. They are different. I don't know the ins and outs of why the FTC is here, which is the Federal Trade Commission, versus the DOJ. I know they serve different purposes, but it's all about antitrust, right? So that's also an interesting tidbit that I didn't have time to research before we recorded today, but I'm curious about.
Right. That's one of those things. It's like, we almost need to bring on an attorney to discuss the nuance. So if there is somebody that's in the comments wants to elaborate for us, please do. That would be just fine.
An exciting request we put forward.
An exciting request. Absolutely. So to piggyback off that, of course, we've got another brand new lawsuit. Google was hit with a $6.6 billion lawsuit over search dominance. And this is in the UK. Yep. So it's a new class action lawsuit in the UK that accuses the search giant of abusing its market power and driving up search ad prices. So it's focusing on the ad market, basically saying, hey, in a nutshell, you've got a monopoly. We're a bunch of small businesses. We can't go anywhere else to reach our market, to reach our customers. We have to go to Google. And because you're essentially a monopoly, you're rising. You have high price ad prices, and we're forced to pay it because we don't have anywhere else to go. And so this $6.6 billion US dollar in potential damages being brought in the UK. This covers a 13-year period, January of 2011 to the present. And so it's another big lawsuit against Google. Again, it's a class action lawsuit. And it does feel, I'll simply just say, it does feel that in the EU and countries abroad outside of the US tend to have more success than within the US, at least, in recent history when they file these lawsuits.
We said it when the DOJ case was ruled in their favor. We said that, hey, other countries, other companies, other people are going to be lining up now to sue Google because of the precedent that has now been set, or at least opened up by the DOJ's kind of winning trial. And so, I mean, not that these are directly related, but hey, this is one of, I would imagine, many, many more to come as countries line up to take advantage of what now has been proven by the DOJ to be these negative practices. This is a little different. This is strictly search advertising, right? So it's ad-based stuff. I see in here there's a bullet point that says restricted competing search engines. So as it is with Google, everything's all intertangled between the search department and the ad department and Chrome and the data, the third-party data. We know Europe's views on cookie data, third-party data. So they don't like that stuff already. We know GDPR. So to your point, like, not only are countries and businesses going to be lining up, but this is something that the EU has already been pretty strict and stringent about.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. So I agree. There's probably going to be a lot of countries lining up to sue Google to see if they can get their cut of the pie. In a way, I mean, Google is certainly going to fight this tooth and nail. I mean, that's what they do. That's what large corporations do. That are going to bring out the best of the best attorneys. They're going to fight this and hope that they get it overturned. They're going to say it's frivolous. There's no basis for this. But also at the end of the day, even if they lose, I mean, $6.6 billion, as big as that number is a drop in the bucket for a company like Google. They'll pay it, they'll move on, and maybe it won't change anything.
And that's a good point. This is monetary related, right? So the DOJ case, to my knowledge, doesn't have any financial attachment. It's about splitting things up. It's about taking away their monopolistic practices, right? They're talking about taking Chrome out of the equation, maybe. But this is just all about money. This is just about, hey, you have basically a fine. I mean, it's a lawsuit, but it's a fine. So it's not, you have to change. It's not really tied to changing or breaking anything up. It's about money, right? So it's just, like you said, they probably have a line item in their budget for these things.
Yeah, exactly. It's it's a known risk in the business, and they've been saving for a rainy day, I guess.
Yeah, well, the rain's coming. It's already pouring.
The rain is coming. Absolutely. So, speaking of Google, speaking of things that are ever evolving, there has been a recent study by Ahrefs that is talking about where websites are getting their traffic, and in particular as it relates to AI. So their big conclusion on their study, they studied, it was like 35,000. Yep. 35,000 websites. They found that AI makes up 0.1% of traffic, but clicks aren't everything. All right. So AI, we talk a lot about it on this news episode of the podcast, that, search is ever changing. We want to do this AI SEO. We want to make sure that when people are doing research in ChatGPT or whatever other tool they're using, that our websites are showing up, that we get a citation so that potentially we can get traffic. Well, Ahrefs kind of shoots that theory to the ground, if you will, and saying, hey, AI is sending 0.1% of total referral traffic. Maybe you don't need to be focusing on that too much. This chart kind of shows it all here, that search overall sends 43.8% of referral traffic. Direct traffic is 42.3%. Social traffic, 13.1%. Paid, 0.5%. Email, 0.2%. And then large language models, or AI models, 0.1%. So it's very low on the totem pole. So I see their point, but on the other hand, it's like, but it is showing up now, right? 2 years ago, it was nothing. Now it's 0.1%, right?
Well, and they point this out. So to give them credit, I've certainly seen this. I can't prove it, but I've seen a lot of evidence of it. Like oftentimes the traffic from the LLM, from the AI, will show up as direct traffic. And so, direct is basically it is the second biggest bucket there, but it's basically even with search for the number one driver and stuff. Am I trying to say like most of that direct bucket there is AI? No. But I think some of it does get swallowed up in the direct traffic bucket. Those of us who are in SEO know, like, getting data from Google in Google Search Console and these places on AI overviews, clicks from AI, like, is not easy and has not been has not been met with much reception from Google yet. But nonetheless, it's showing up, and it's not huge.
Right. Yeah, it's not huge. It's growing. It's interesting to keep an eye on, right? Certainly one of those things. I found this chart also very interesting because they break it down by traffic source across everything. Instead of just bucketing everything in social media, they break out social media platforms. Instead of just bucketing in as AI tools or LLMs, they break it out by ChatGPT, Perplexity, etc. Right? To give you an idea. So search engines, right?
Look at that. Perplexity overtook Gemini. That was one of the things they talked about. It, I think, data-wise, according to Ahrefs, it was, ChatGPT has the lion's share at this point, but that it was Gemini second. Well, speaking of Google, Gemini's now moved down to third, and Perplexity has leapfrogged them with a little bit more market share.
Yep. So a little bit more market share. And I think that's the only 3 LLMs mentioned, right? ChatGPT, Perplexity, and Gemini on this particular chart. So ChatGPT is the largest traffic referral source out of those 3. And you can look at that. It breaks down social media. Facebook and Instagram are on the top. Bing, I guess, is the second largest search in traffic referral source at 1.57% versus Google 41%.
It's nice to see Google getting a taste of their own medicine, though. Gemini, I mean, it doesn't make up a large portion either way, but ChatGPT is sends 9 times more outbound links or website traffic, if you will, than Gemini. And if you look at that in terms of market share, like Google is certainly in catch-up mode.
Yeah, that's right. We've got these upstarts, if you will, that seem to be hitting the market a little bit better for that. So the other thing that this Ahrefs study pointed out is that, yes, you may not be getting a lot of clicks, but in terms of branding and company recognition overall, being mentioned in these AI tools is a very good thing because it gets your name out there and you want to make sure that you're mentioned and potential customers are familiar with their brand. At least that's kind of what I gathered as their conclusion. I don't know if you have anything to add for that, Jared.
There was one other thing I saw. Let me look at my notes here. Smaller sites see a higher share of their traffic from AI sources. And I think that's something we've noticed over the years, 2 years, year, maybe we'll call it, that specifically AI overviews, but even ChatGPT, SearchGPT, they do seem to mention smaller sites more often than we're used to smaller sites getting mentioned in organic search, which has a thread of encouragement for those of us we'll call small publishers, right? And so this report kind of reinforced some of these things that we've seen and we've talked a little about in the podcast, but basically that smaller sites do get a higher percentage than the larger sites as it relates to their total traffic source.
Right. Yep. No, I think that's a good point. And I've actually noticed that anecdotally as I've, been using ChatGPT. I'll see a bunch of sites referenced that I've never heard of that are smaller sites, and which is kind of cool. It gives some diversity to the results and allows me to research, maybe some smaller publishers. Okay, this brings us to our final study of the day. Our final news topic of the day here is a study on LinkedIn. A LinkedIn study finds that adding links boosts engagement by 13%. Now, that's not a title that I would have expected to read, that actually adding links to your social media posts or your LinkedIn posts in particular would actually increase engagement. And the article does go on here to say that this is contradicting advice I've always heard. I've always told other people that by including links in your post, the platform's not going to show it quite as much. I know this is true on Facebook. It's true on Twitter. It's true on Instagram, other platforms that typically they want to keep you on the platform. They don't want to send you to a third-party website. And so the engagement typically isn't as high. And so I'd want to see a follow-up study on this LinkedIn one. But this is, I guess, encouraging news, right? Is that, hey, on LinkedIn in particular, you can still include links in your posts. It says it gets 13.57% more interactions and 4.9% more views than posts without links. And I should give props to Metricool. They are the ones that did the study here. They analyzed 48,000 company pages over 3 years to come to these findings.
I mean, there's a couple of things about this that I think are really interesting to point out. Just like you, when I saw this headline, I'm like, did I read that right? I almost had to do like a double take because I'm like you, like it's always been drilled into my brain. I feel like I've even tested it, but it's been so long because it's been around for so long. This idea, you don't put links. You always have to stick them in a comment and et cetera, et cetera. I think the study, like you said, is interesting. It's 577,000 LinkedIn posts. So I was like, okay.
Wow.
That's a lot. Sometimes you see these. I'm a data analyst by trade. From my college days, and like you see it, and you're like, how big is that sample size? That's a big sample size, folks. Next up, I thought this was interesting. 13.57% more interactions. So again, the devil in the details kind of side of me is like, oh, well, what's an interaction? Like, is that really a click? Interactions often mean a combination of likes and shares and clicks. But I mean, then it told me right there next to it, 4.9% more views. So you're getting more views, you're getting more interactions, which is a combination usually of clicks, likes and shares, and then it's across a massive data set. So I would say this is great news to see a social media platform, being okay to send outbound traffic, or at least being okay to let people move inside and out of their platform to engage in the content.
Yeah. And so this is something that I think people should test out. Hey, go over to LinkedIn, try some posts with links, try some posts without links. Maybe get your own mini study going for your brand, for your company, your website, and see how it goes. Like, I'll be honest that I have not used LinkedIn hardly at all for really marketing my brand, for niche pursuits. But I have heard that a lot of people have done really, really well on LinkedIn. They like LinkedIn, more than Twitter and Facebook and Instagram. It works particularly well for certain like professional type niches,
B2B.
B2B stuff. And so if you're in like a B2B niche in particular, definitely be on LinkedIn and see how it goes. Putting some more links.
We had a great interview probably 3 months ago with Nat Berman on LinkedIn. That's a good one for people want to go listen to a deep dive with someone on LinkedIn. I will say also, if you're remotely interested, we read you the headline, but there's actually a lot of great data in here beyond what we read you. Carousels are the top performing content type. Video content surged on LinkedIn. So there's a lot of fun things in there that you can learn. So it's not just a study on interactions and views, but there's a lot of interesting data in here in this study that has me, both scratching my head and kind of looking at LinkedIn with some intrigue.
Right. Yep. And that was a great point. I was just going to mention that. Yeah. Polls, text only posts, those can do great. But yeah, polls and carousels and video, those tend to do even better. So anyways, some good tips in this study. Definitely head over to, I know we have the search engine journal pulled up, but if you go over to Metricool, they have the study, the deep dive that you can. I was trying to find it here really quick. Anyways, if you go to the Metricool LinkedIn study, if you search for that, you'll find it. You can get even more in-depth data on that. Hey everyone, Spencer here, founder of Niche Pursuits. Are you adding a new internal link pointing to each article you publish? You should be. Ever find it time-consuming and a bit overwhelming? Remembering what content you published and deciding which anchor text to use can be a real headache. What if there was a better way? Well, that's exactly why I created Link Whisper. Simply click Add Inbound Internal Links, and Link Whisper will scan your site in seconds and suggest the most relevant links with appropriate anchor text for your new article. Now simply check the box next to the internal links you want to add, and Link Whisper will add these links for you. No need to go into each article, edit, and add the link. It's already done. No more manual internal link building or guesswork. Just efficient, accurate linking that saves you time and improves your SEO. Transform your content strategy with Link Whisper. Start linking smarter, not harder. Use the coupon code PODCAST for $15 off. Head over to linkwhisper.com and use coupon code PODCAST to get $15 off. Okay, now let's move into our side hustles, Jared. I'm excited to talk about my side hustle, as I teased in the beginning. I got something new that I've never shared. A brand new side hustle is happening here on the Niche Pursuits podcast. That's what we do. We get shiny object syndrome. We go out, we start something new, then we talk about it. This one is unique because I didn't necessarily start it to make money for myself, right?
Okay.
So here's what happened. I have two kids, believe it or not, two children that are in college and they are coming home for the summer. They're going to be looking for summer jobs. I also have another child in high school. She would like a summer job. And so I was starting to try and help them. Hey, consider applying there. Look at these kind of jobs. And then I'm thinking, man, wouldn't it be cool if I could start a business that my kids could run? They get paid an hourly wage, but they also learn business, get some valuable skills. And maybe I even make a little bit of money doing it. And so I brainstormed a ton of different ideas. I've got a whiteboard full of ideas. I wanted something that's easy enough that sort of teenagers or college kids could run. And it is maybe part online because I've got some knowledge of stuff online, but maybe is also part, offline, so they can be out actually, doing something. And then I'll just say the third component of things that I was thinking about is I do happen to have a large garage space where I could store stuff or anyways.
I sense
The
an
light
e-com business coming in.
Yes, you're ahead of the game here, in a way. So finally, what I landed on, I won't drag it on anymore. Here's what I've done. I have decided to buy liquidation pallets. So a lot of companies, retail. So think about Walmart, Target, Home Depot, Amazon. All of these companies, they get returns and they're trying to get it out of their warehouse. And so they sell it for pennies on the dollar. This happens all the time. And so I was researching this. You can buy pallets online. You can go to Bstock. I think it's bstock.com. There's liquidation pallet places. You can buy pallets online, directly from Home Depot or Walmart, and they will ship it to you, but it costs a lot to get it shipped to you. So I did some research and I happened to find a liquidation warehouse about 30 minutes from my house. And I said, that's it. This is the business I'm starting. I'm not going to have to pay shipping costs. I'm not going to have to bid online. I can go in person, look at these pallets, inspect them, load it up into my own truck, and it'll end up at my house. I don't have to pay all these shipping costs. So I have the advantage. No shipping costs. I can inspect in person, and I have my own quote unquote mini warehouse where I don't have any storage fees. I said, that's it. This is great business for teenagers. They can go through all the stuff. They can take pictures of it. They can inventory it. They can list it on eBay or Amazon or wherever else we want to sell it. And hopefully we all make some money. So believe it or not, Jared knows this, but for listeners out there, a few weeks ago, I drove out to this liquidation warehouse. There's hundreds of pallets out there. We picked out 3 pallets. I spent $1,500 total on 3 pallets. And now I got piles of junk in my garage, Jared. That's what's going on. I've got loads of junk. I shouldn't say junk. I've got boxes of goods out in my garage now, and we're going to try and sell it.
You showed me a video of this trailer of junk that you have in your garage.
Yeah.
It's wild. It is wild. I will admit that it's wild. I think I'm chuckling because we have here, folks, the founder of Niche Pursuits, the founder of Link Whisper, the founder of Longtail Pro. Just last week or so, driving down the highway with a trailer full of junk for a business opportunity.
That's exactly right. I got my teenagers. I got my truck. We're gonna hit it big.
So, guys, so many questions. I mean, where are you at? You got the stuff. Where are you at in the process of all the messy middle, the in between before it goes onto a platform to sell it on?
Yeah, man, I have learned so much in the last 3 weeks. I have been binge watching YouTube. I've been reading tutorials. I'm like, oh yeah, eBay's a thing. Do I have a login? Yes, I do. So I've been learning a lot. And so I'll just simply say I've been putting in way more work than my employees. But I have set up a system where We can take the item off the pallet. I actually bought a barcode scanner. We can scan it.
Oh, wow.
It automatically logs it into a spreadsheet with the barcode number. And I've sort of trained a couple of this is like my nephew, a niece, and my kids, how to log it into the spreadsheet. And then my son, he's more tech savvy. He's my oldest son. He's still at college right now. And so while he's remote, I should also say we weigh it, we measure each item, we log it in the spreadsheet,
Wow.
and then we take pictures. I bought a little, like, about this big photo booth.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
It's like, that you can put things in.
Uh-huh.
So they're taking pictures, and then my son is going to list everything on eBay. And he has. We've listed about 30 items on eBay, and we've sold 7. So how about that, Jared?
Wow.
The total is, I could actually look it up. I can't. It's like $150 we've sold. To get the exact number, it's $182.38 is the amount of product.
That's real money
that we've sold so far. And we have hundreds of items. So we've listed 30. I've got another 200 to 300 easy.
Wow.
That need to be listed. Right. So that's where we're at.
What's a pallet cost? It sounds like you get several hundred items per pallet.
Yeah, we bought 3 different pallet types.
Okay. Oh, just pallet types.
So one is
This
types.
is a more sophisticated industry than I was giving it credit for.
Oh, yeah. No, this is legit, Jared. There's a high piece count, which had 400 to 500 loose items. These are unboxed items that, these didn't come from the pallet, but this will just give you an idea. I mean, they're just small items, gosh. 500, I got to figure out what it is. Does it have a barcode? So some have barcodes, some don't. That is a lot of work. So there's, like I said, what did I say? Like 400 items, probably
unboxed. Like they're just there.
Well, a lot of them are unboxed.
Yeah.
Some of them are boxed, but it's like sunscreen or vitamins or, smaller-ish items.
So
we got some filters that were in a box, right? We actually got a couple juicers in there that were in a box. But I'd say half are in a box, half are not. They're just loose, smaller items. Ton of work to go through those. Maybe half of those I'll try to sell at a garage sale, may never list because they're worth $1, $2. But some are worth $25 or $30 that came in that box. Then we bought an Amazon Monster pallet. I think this is the pallet that has the most potential. So that first pallet cost me $400. The Amazon Monster pallet cost me $700. Now that probably has 150 items, maybe. I just sort of guessing. A lot of them are smaller. I've got a few items right here. You want to see them? Hold on just a second.
Yeah, let's see these because I by the way, I love the naming conventions here. The Amazon Monster, what'd you call it? Monster pallet?
Yeah, I didn't come up with these names. That's what it's really called. And they call it a monster pallet because it's 8 feet tall.
Oh
it's huge. And these are all returns directly from Amazon.
Yep.
And these truly are directly from Amazon. Anyways, it's customers put something in a box. Amazon had it on their shelf. And then the seller, I'm guessing, said, you know what? Instead of paying the fee to relist it and try and sell it again, just get rid of it. So that's and ended up in my house. So we got things like this. It's a derma pen. Mm-hmm. People use it to remove moles, apparently, right?
I don't have one for the record, but I've heard of them.
It's brand new. I turned it on. It works, right? We got about 10 of these, right? They sell for $20 a pop. We got I wasn't really prepared to show all this stuff, but we've got these LED face masks.
Yes.
That these go for $25 to $35 a pop.
That's the whole like red light thing, right?
It's
something like that. Yeah.
7 different colors: red light, blue light, green light. They all do different stuff. I don't know. I don't know what it does exactly, but I tested all of these. They all work except for one. We got 20 of these.
Wow.
Right? So that's like $700 worth of product right there.
Wow.
Then anyways, I'm going to try not to take up the rest of the hour with this podcast. I promise.
You are so excited about this.
I am so excited. Then we got mini drones.
Oh, wow.
You know, these are really small. You know, they're cheap. They're not going to go for hundreds of dollars, but I think they're $20 to $25 each. Got about 10 of these, right? Tested these. They all work except for one. So that gives you an idea of the types of things that I've gotten on this Pallets. Anyways, and a ton more, like just filters and humidifiers and tea kettles and notebooks, and I don't know. It's a lot of stuff.
So I'm gonna embarrass you a little bit. How much that $182 was you hustling your family though?
No, that's a good question. Now, I have a good answer for that. I know you're trying to throw me under the bus there, Jared.
I'm trying.
But that $182 is all eBay.
Your good point. Okay, so it does not include
eBay.
the hustling money from hustling your
but
family.
then I did hustle my own family members. I walked them through my garage unintentionally. They're like, you know what? I do need a massage gun. And so I sold it to them for, $15 or $20. So I sold a drill, a massage gun, and a couple toys. And that's another $70 or something.
Oh, that's income.
On top of that.
That's income. I mean,
that's income.
You could just become the good supplier to your family and your neighborhood. They could just know Spencer's got something good in that garage. We'll just drop by on our evening walk and see what's in stock.
Yeah, exactly. So
open the garage from 4 to 5 every day.
I'm moving out behind the computer. I'm getting my hands dirty. I'm in the garage. It's happening. The final pallet. That I didn't mention, I spent $400 on. Okay. So it's $1,500 total. Is I probably won't do it again. It's like called electronics mediums is what the Pallet guy called it. And he said, these are like medium-sized electronics that may or may not be broken. They are returned. They might be broken. Just be aware of that. If you've got somebody that wants to be hands-on and try and fix this stuff, go for it. So I went for it. And a lot of it is potentially broken. I need to go through and test a lot of the other stuff. But one big find is we found a commercial Keurig coffee maker. It's like the Series 3200 or something. It's worth $800 brand new. And this unit is used, needs to be cleaned up, but I plugged it in, turns on just fine. Looks like it works. I haven't fully tested it, but in used condition, I can probably sell it for like $400. Make my money back
right there.
Yeah.
This is all very fascinating, obviously.
But I know people listening are like, oh, he's got another 400 or 500 items, right? He's going to make his money back easy. Let me break down the math. First, I'll simply say it's a ton of work. This is not easy. The other part of it is that, yes, I do think that the pallets have $4,000 to $5,000 worth of product. I only spent $1,500. If that's all you hear, you're like, do that all day long. But the hours spent, I'm going to pay my employees, my kids, to do all this. When it's all said and done, I think it's very possible that I'm going to just barely break even, right? I'm going to make $0 profit out of this, right? I spent $1,500, pay my kids $2,500, right, over the next few months to do all this, right? Anyway, so is it big? If you were to do it all yourself, you would make some money, but right now I'm feeling like making more than $15 to $20 an hour with your own time doing pallets. That maybe is the high end. I don't know, but I may get better. I may optimize things and maybe people can make more money, but it's super fun. I'm loving it.
The reason why I was joking at the intro and so skeptical really is for me, and I'll be curious to hear your feedback because I don't know this, but having sold like 3 or 4 things on Facebook Marketplace, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, those people drive me nuts. Like they're haggling, they're flaky. Again, sample size very limited, but they're just and so I'm just curious, like the people you're selling to on, say, an eBay or these platforms, like, is that gonna hurt your business having to go back and forth and have people go like, oh, I'm interested, and that sort of nature of things?
Yeah, so far, honestly, there's been 0 customer messages interaction other than customers can send you an offer. I have a buy it now price, and say I have listed for $30, they can say I want it for 20. And so it's not even a message, it's just like a button they hit, and they type 20, and I see you have an offer for 20, and I say, no, I'll do 25 though. And they accept or reject. Takes 10 seconds. So it's been pretty easy.
Okay.
Sample size is small, only 30 listings. Once we have 500, that could be a little bit different, but I'm encouraged by that. Some of this stuff I probably will want to sell locally, like a big old Keurig coffee maker. Don't know that I want to ship that. So I may dive into the Facebook Marketplace and try some of that, but I'll keep people posted. I will have a full YouTube video coming out next week, probably Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, that will give you my journey so far. It should be a really good video. I have tons of footage of me actually looking at the pallets in the warehouse, picking one out, unboxing, showing what I got. It's going to be a fun video.
I was going to say, this is perfect for YouTube content. I can just see all the fun. I mean, it's like an unboxing video 500 times over again.
Right. Exactly. So as people maybe are hearing in my voice, I could talk about this all day. I've never been so excited about something that's going to make me probably $0. But I'm having a lot of fun doing it.
Sheesh. I think it's great. I am also skeptical you'll make any money on it, but given that you've shared the goal so clearly, not really to make money, just to give a job. You've just turned into a regular old charity case here, Spencer.
Well, hey, rather than me having to fund their college directly out of my pocket, it's like the business funds.
There you go.
Their college, right?
There you go.
0 out of my pocket, hopefully.
Well,
so that's a win.
My side hustle is not nearly as intriguing or interesting. I'll tell you that much. It's just one of those boring online businesses we always talk about around here, But I will give an update. I will say mine's more profitable than yours, though.
Well, that's not hard.
But I guess profit's not everything, is it? Anyways, I'm here with an update on my food website. It's been a little while since I've given an update on that. We've talked on the podcast about how it does very well in Q4 because ad RPMs are really high and people are, eating a lot, looking for different things in that space. It also does well in January and in February. Because of the specific, sub niche that it's in. It does very well in those early of the year months. Great traffic. Downside is, as we know, January, February are the worst months for RPMs. And then the rest of the month between the holidays, between Q4, and after February are always a bit of a, mixed bag, we'll say. And so we're definitely getting some mixed bag stuff in March. I'll say that at the outset. So traffic in March went down, but a very normal, reasonable amount. And then most of the traffic for this website comes from Pinterest, but it does get email traffic. It does get other traffic. During the first week of April, out of the blue, traffic dipped like 65-70% from Pinterest.
Wow.
It was like in one day, and I'm like, oh my goodness. And so the best we could tell, many of our pins had the button removed that encouraged you to click on them. And so we were just talking about LinkedIn and about how, that study. I have that on my mind, like these social media brands going like, I don't want traffic off platform because I feel like I just went through it. Luckily, this blip only lasted a couple of days and traffic went basically right back to where it was.
Nice.
So good news there. Of course, it happened those 3 days of the week where we get the most traffic, so that kind of obliterated that whole weekend. But so that was a dip. I have heard from other people that get a lot of traffic from Pinterest that they saw a dip as well. So something to think about. Obviously, always nerve-wracking and whatnot. I'll say this as well. RPMs have dropped, I'd call it pretty significantly. And the drop has happened at a time that makes it hard to diagnose. So first off, as most people know who make money from display ads, the end of every quarter gets an increase in spending. And this is most likely attributed to a lot of brands dumping their ad budget for the quarter. They'll get their budget either on a monthly or a quarterly basis, sometimes on a yearly basis, but there's always a big bump in spending at the end of a quarter. And then there's always a drought in spending at the beginning of a quarter. And so end of March, we transitioned out of a quarter, and then beginning of April, we transitioned into a quarter. Now, I'll also tell you, we talked about it last week for a little bit in the podcast. TikTok has lost a lot of advertisers due to uncertainty, both with their platform, but also just due to the general uncertainty of the economic situation right now globally. And I've read a lot of articles about businesses really being nervous and kind of not spending as much over the last month or so because of what's going on in the global and the national economy. And I am pretty sure it's having an impact on RPMs because my RPM since we had April have dropped quite a bit. So all that to say, traffic still doing pretty well. Aside from that blip that we talked about from Pinterest, RPMs really not doing well. And so as a result, if you take the first half of April, I'm only on pace to make about $1,500 this month. Whereas I made around $3,000 in February and somewhere in between that in March. So, man, that's a bummer. I mean, it's a side hustle sort of thing. So you got to take the ups with the downs. I do wonder how much of that will change as we get into summer months, as we get towards May and June, which are not the beginning part of the quarter. Hopefully, as we start to figure out some of this economic stuff that's happening around the world and here in our country, I am just really curious to see how this affects, if it's affecting anybody else. I have seen Morgan McBride, someone we've interviewed in the podcast before, was sharing that her April RPMs are atrocious. She was sharing that on Twitter recently. I saw that. So I was like, okay, interesting. So I don't know if anybody else is seeing that and experiencing that. I'm sure it's somewhat niche dependent, but hopefully traffic will continue to maintain, which is about what we expect this time of year. Not a lot of traffic growth. Usually those growths will come as we enter into September, October and stuff, but maintain that traffic, but then get those RPMs back up.
Yeah. Yeah. Despite all of that, right? Still being able to make $1,500 from your food website, that's good, right? I mean, it's still profitable. But I agree. It would be nice to have a little more certainty around RPMs, other things that are happening in the market. And so, yeah, I'll be curious to hear how that all shakes out over the next couple of months.
Yeah, it's a good reminder. Remember, this site was making like $121 at its low after the HBU. Yeah. So still like over 10x above what it was at its low. Right. And whatnot. So yeah, but that's stay the course.
Stay the course. And how many people would love to have a site making $1,500 a month? So it's always good to step back and realize, hey, it's still a good thing, making some money. People would love to have that side hustle income, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's no pallet business. Let's be fair here, but
that's right. I'm going to crush your food website with my Pallets.
As you said, you're sitting on like $5,000 of inventory there.
That's right. It's just going to take me 6 months to sell it.
Just gotta. What is that? I'm reminded of a Seinfeld episode where Jerry gets royalty checks every single time an episode of his is aired in some foreign country, but the royalty checks are only for 7 cents each. So it takes him longer to sign the checks and take them down to the bank than it's worth.
Yeah.
The royalty check. That's what it reminds me of here.
Yeah, maybe so. I am certainly spending a lot of time on this.
Yeah.
All right. So let's go to our weird niche sites. I've got one that, I've just kind of been fascinated with recently. Right. And so here it is.
You didn't even make it linkable in the agenda here. I've got to boot it up on my own.
You're going to have to go there on your own. Yeah. It's detectfaceshape.com, and that has dashes in it. Detect-face-shape.com. That's what we're looking at here. And this website does exactly what you think it would. It's using some sort of face shape AI. It detects your face shape. Why this is so fascinating to people, I don't know. But let's go ahead and do a live demo of this. Ooh. Right? I've got a couple of pictures here. I'll include mine, and people can quickly guess what is my face shape. It's analyzing it.
Oh
and
dear.
I don't know what in the world. We've got
I
ads
hope that's not your face.
popping up. It better not be after this. Let's show my result. According to interstitial ad. I mean, there is a lot of ads
There's a
on
lot
this
of ads.
website.
Oh,
Here
it's a
we go.
percentage.
My face shape is oblong, 71% oblong. Diamond at 25%, oval, square, heart, but it's mostly oblong and diamond. And that's pretty much it. It tells me the shape of my face, and then I move on with my life. How this is helpful, I guess, I don't really know, but I can imagine people picking out glasses or hats or makeup or something, right? That's what they would do.
I
They
have a
want to
story
know.
about this, Spencer.
Okay, please tell me the story.
Not
Because I'm
this.
going to pull up your face shape.
I was going to say, can you grab a picture of mine? I'm curious.
I have one.
So this is a true story here. These are my old reading glasses. My prescription has changed. Wah wah, part of getting older. And these are my new prescription glasses. And when I was going to pick out new glasses, they were like, they give you a ton of options, and I don't know how to. So I went to ChatGPT and I'm like, help me pick out glasses. And it said, well, upload a photo of your face so we can see what kind of face shape you have, and then we'll tell you what type of glasses to get. And I did that, and they said, I don't remember what they told me about my face. They said I had a very square face, I think they said.
Let's see what this.
See what it says. And so it recommended that I get curved lenses this time rather than square lenses this time. So, what am I getting here? Well, square is 2%, but
you're a little less oblong than mine, a little more diamond.
So
apparently, with this one picture, anyway.
You should now go over and copy and paste those results really quickly into ChatGPT and ask it, with a face like this, what kind of glasses should I get? I'd be curious if it paired me up with the right ones, but that's how I used it. I could have used this; would have been easier.
Yeah, it just tell you.
Man, what is a heart face? How do you have a heart face? Wouldn't that just be a oval face or something? Or
I don't know.
I mean, it's there. This site is littered with ads, by the way. If you know how much traffic it gets, I'd be curious to see.
I do know.
Because it's just cranking.
So here you go. I went to ChatGPT. I pasted in the results. And yeah, it kind of gives you, hey, you need to be getting Wayfarers, brown line glasses, square. I don't know. Anyways, you could analyze all this, but what to avoid, right? Smaller, narrow frames, oversized or extra tall frames, tiny round glasses. So that's exactly what this website is for, I guess.
There you go.
So I can tell you that this website gets way more traffic than I expected. So I went over to SimilarWeb, and it says that it gets 1.74 million visitors per month.
What?
Per month. And not only that, but the number of pages per visit is 5.83. So people are clicking, they're probably uploading multiple photos. I don't know, looking at all sorts of results. And as direct and organic are the top two things. Like, I think it ranks at the top of Google for, detect my face shape type thing. And so, as you can imagine, it makes a ton of money with ads because it's all over the place. I did a quick calculation. If it's making a $5 RPM, which is pretty low, guess it's doing $50,000 per month in ad revenue.
And really, that's because of how many page views the average person is it like that? Just because you had interstitial, so you had so many ad units. You had video ad units. That was the scary one that came up. You have sidebar on both sidebars. Like, it was just loaded with ads. So I think the page RPM you're doing is got to be low. I mean, with all those ad units, I would think it's double that.
Yeah, I mean, it could easily be $100,000 a month.
That's $1 million website.
Yeah.
For something that spits out results that don't even help me. I mean, until I take it somewhere else, right? But without AI, I wouldn't know what to do with the fact that my face is 56% oblong.
Exactly. Maybe more people are sophisticated than we are.
That's a good point.
Maybe
using us as the litmus test isn't always the best of ideas.
Yeah, exactly. So you can make fun of us in the comments if this is all, well-known information. Everybody knows about their face shape and yada, yada, yada. But if not, check out the website.
I'm blown away. That is fascinating.
It's insane.
The concept is one thing, but the amount of traffic it gets, oh my goodness.
Unbelievable.
Wow.
Unbelievable. So,
well, my my weird niche is very boring this week. And it also, not only is the concept boring, but the website's pretty boring. It is email-checker.net.
okay. Got it.
Now, someone was getting really creative with the logo here. Let's be honest. For those of you not looking, I'm being incredibly sarcastic.
Pulled up Word, type something in.
I think they did. They're like, ooh, let's change the color of one of the words, the .net. I thought this was interesting, though. It says right here, a simple tool to check whether an email address exists. So, Spencer, maybe put in jared@nichepursuits.com, because I don't want to get all the listeners' emails, so I make them email you. And as you can see, it's supposed to be giving you a result on the right. Maybe hit it again.
Let me
hit check again. Yeah, it's supposed to give you that result there on the right-hand side.
There, it looks like it's working now.
There you go.
Result, okay.
So it says it's
the email
valid.
address
now,
is valid.
I don't think I have an email address unless I wasn't made aware of it.
I don't know that you do.
Well, I was trying to find one that would show you that it works and that it doesn't exist, but that didn't go very well.
Maybe you do have an email address.
Well, I don't know about it if I do. I wonder if I've been getting emails over the last couple of years about the podcast, and I don't even know about
it. Probably just forwards to me.
It probably just goes to you. Well, so yeah, you can play around with this.
That's weird.
You can make, I was going to say, I definitely don't have that one there. Well, we're getting a lot of false positives. Let's put it that way. email@nichepursuits.com.
I definitely don't have that one. So I'm just wondering if,
so
maybe it doesn't check individual domains.
Well, here we can actually read how they verify an email. Maybe we can poke a hole here. So it says on the homepage, first it checks for email address format. That makes sense. Then make sure that domain name is valid. So that is a valid domain name. We also check whether it's a disposable email address or not. I'm guessing that's like a one-time sort of trigger. I don't know how they would test for that. In the final step, it extracts the MX records from the domain records and connects to the email server, or SMTP. Also simulates sending a message to make sure the mailbox really exists for that user and address. Some mail servers do not cooperate in the process. In such cases, the result of this email verification tool may not be as accurate as expected. Well, expected is it's accurate, so anything less than that would be.
Right.
Anyways, well, I tested it a few times and it worked. I used my 201creative.com, and info at 201creative is where most people email us if they have questions and stuff. That did show valid, and then I put in other email addresses and it wasn't valid. So it worked for me. It didn't work here live on the podcast. Isn't that the way it goes?
Well, let's at least get one junk email that I spelled wrong at 201 Creative.
There you go.
That's a bad email address.
There you go. That mailbox doesn't exist. So
maybe my server has something about it that's like, hey.
Yeah, you have a positive server that just likes to say everything's accepted here.
We're all good. Send away.
Limited in terms of ads. You're going up there to go over to Ahrefs, and I think it's interesting to look at. It doesn't get a lot. It doesn't have a lot of keywords that it's ranking for. But out of the keywords it ranks for, it does pretty well with it. So it does get an estimated 50,000 or so organic visits per month. It does rank number 1 or 2 for most of these terms. Email checker, 33,000 searches a month. So, not too bad. You'll notice some red there. So if you go back to the overview, Spencer, and this, if you're watching on screen, this is not a look anybody wants to see. And there it is. Yeah, it's taken a bit of a beating. So it was as high as almost 250,000 organics per month. So I don't know what's going on. They're still ranking like number 2. Maybe they lost all their long tail keywords. Maybe estimated traffic has dropped a lot because maybe like Google does this now for you in the SERPs. I don't know. Didn't have time to research it, but they have taken quite the bath in terms of traffic. Probably lost about 80% of their traffic over the last 2 years.
Yep, down quite a bit. But still, like, such a simple tool. I like websites that are able to come up with just like some simple tool, which I guess is kind of site that I shared as well. It's just a simple little tool, uses AI to analyze an image. I like websites that are able to do that. So kudos to Email Checker for coming up with a cool tool, right? But it does look like it's facing some headwinds. Maybe there's other tools, competition, or Google is maybe doing something directly in the SERPs now.
Yeah, so it's not getting the kind of traffic that that your site is, but still, to your point, and I think that's what we always try to bring it back to, especially with what I've been talking about a lot with building my calculator websites. Like that email checker tool, probably pretty simple to build nowadays.
Yeah.
Probably not too hard to host, and still 50,000 page views a month, if that's what it is getting on the downturn. I mean, that's still probably more than paid for what it costs to build it.
Yeah, absolutely. And, this is just organic search, right? So it might be getting a lot of direct traffic. Maybe there's a lot of people, once they discover it, just keep coming back and back, right? So it might be getting 100,000 or more. Who knows? But yeah, I like the little idea. Cool niche site. Thank you for sharing the site, Jared. Very good. So
good to have you back, Spencer. It's there was a lot in the news, actually, to be fair, but I think that if listeners look back on this episode, they're going to remember it for the day that Spencer announced that he's in the pallet business.
I'm in the pallet business, getting my hands dirty, having a lot of fun doing it. So feel free to give me some jabs in the comments or kudos, whatever, support me. Maybe we'll see, newfound addiction. I may just go buy some more pallets and end up with thousands of things in my garage that never sell. But we will find out, and I'll keep sharing the results of that. So please stick around.
At some point, I'm going to ask you what you're going to do with all the stuff you either don't want to even bother selling or can't sell, but we'll leave that one for later.
Exactly. That will be a good question. So thank you, everybody, for listening so much. It's been a lot of fun, Jared, getting back on with you, recording an episode. Really appreciate everybody listening.
Have a great weekend, everyone.